Your environment dictates your identity. The truth is, she was a principal when she was washing dishes. She was a leader when she was in that dysfunctional home. She just didn't know it yet. On the way to your destiny, there will be environments that contradict what God has for you. Circumstances that are just the opposite of what you know are in your heart. You know God's restoring health back to you, but all the reports say you're not going to get better. You know you're going to start that business, but no doors are opening. You know you're going to meet the right person, but there's no sign of it. It's tempting to let what's not happening define who you are. I guess I'll always be lonely. I'll never get healthy again. I'll never be successful. Don't let that environment determine your identity. Those circumstances don't define you. Like this young woman, there are things in you that you haven't discovered. Your time is coming. The Pharaoh is going to call. The doors are going to open. What God promised you is still on the schedule. Now don't get talked out of who you know you are. Don't let how long it's taken, what you didn't get, who left you, convince you to lower your standards and give up on your dreams. Start seeing yourself as limited, ordinary, not good enough. God's favor is on your life. He's called you for such a time as this. Sure, you have opposition. That's because the enemy can sense the greatness in you. He knows you're a person of destiny. It's your call to break barriers and to set new standards. He uses adversity, bad breaks, dysfunction to try to steal your identity. You may get thrown into a pit, but you have to remind yourself, this pit didn't change who I am. I'm a prince in the pit. I'm a prince in the prison, and I'm a prince in the palace. The question is, will you keep your identity through the pit and through the prison? Will you not let the environment convince you that you must have heard God wrong? The opposition's too big. I'm not that talented. I can't reach my dreams. It would have happened by now. Tune all that out and keep your mind stayed on what God says about you. I am blessed. I'm talented. My future is bright. God is breathing in my direction. I will become all He's created me to be. Think about David. The prophet Samuel came to his father's house to choose the next king of Israel. He saw David's 7 older brothers, but he passed over them and chose David. It was an amazing moment. David, the least likely one. His brothers bigger, stronger, more experienced. But Samuel poured the oil on David. He was anointed the next king. What's interesting is David didn't go to the palace. He went back to the shepherd's fields. He was out there week after week, month after month. He knew he was a king. He felt that oil running down his head. He heard the prophet declaring, but his circumstances said just the opposite. He was still out taking care of sheep, shoveling their waste, getting their food. I can imagine him at night, alone, no one to talk to. Maybe Samuel was wrong. Maybe I'm not a king. If I was going to do great things, why am I still stuck out here? The enemy knows if he can steal your identity, convince you that you're not who God says you are, then he can keep you from your destiny. David's environment didn't line up with the prophecy spoken over him. He had no one to lead, no one that looked up to him, no influence. But David understood this principle. My environment doesn't define who I am. My God defines who I am. God says I'm a king, so I'm going to have a king mentality. David led those sheep with excellence. He used his slingshot to protect those animals like he was protecting God's people. Others passing by wouldn't pay any attention. Here's that shepherd boy, no big deal. What they didn't know was he was a king in the shepherd's fields. His time was coming. One day he defeated Goliath. He was thrust into influence and favor that he had never seen. He became who God said he was. Don't let your environment talk you out of what God promised you. Keep seeing yourself as a king, even though you're in the shepherd's fields right now. That's just a season. Keep seeing yourself as a principal, even though you may be washing dishes. See yourself as a prince, even though you're in the pit. Where you are is not who you are.
Amen.
Don't get bitter over a temporary season. Don't lose your identity over something that's going to change. This is where some people miss God's best. They get discouraged and they allow it to change who they are. I'll never step into leadership. I can't expand my business. My family will never be restored. And I'm in a pit. You're right where Joseph was.